Shalom, Israel, Most High in Christ. Bless, all praises to the Most High for all things, all ways. Back at it again with another Bible History 101. Continuing to talk about King David. No music this week because I got something else that I want to bring out. I like to go into the archaeological side of things occasionally. We're just so far back in history that a lot of Israelite history has not been recorded, and that's stuff that like the type of things that would have been around that were destroyed by the other nations. But there is some archaeological evidence pointing to the real person, that King David. All right. And of course, right here on this website, it says top 10 discoveries related to David, and they got this Edomite right here in a statue. But you know, you go to some of these Russian icons. I like pulling up the Varney Monastery because they got some good stuff over there. Here you see the Black Angel right here, and as we know, David was a little lighter. He's a little lighter right here, but as you can see, the fro and the crown, and he's playing the psaltery or the lute, whichever you want to call it. And you want to see David black as night. Here's another one. He's black as hell in this one. But anyway, let's get to the archaeological things. We're not going to get through all 10 of these because some of these are irrelevant. Like this ancient slingshots. Like we know slingshots been around forever. And this one's more about Goliath than it is David. But here we go. Let's look at number 8, which is Hebron, as we talked about last week. Hebron was David's first capital whenever he was king of Judah. And let me just make sure that everything's going well. Okay, all praise to the Most High. It seems everything's working well. We're going to get into this. This is BibleArchaeologyReport.com. They did this top 10 list of archaeological proof for King David. All right, this is number 8. It says, David initially reigned as king of Judah at Hebron, while Saul's son Ishbosheth reigned as king of Israel from Mahanaim. And we read about that last week. All right. It says, Hebron has identified as Jebel Rumaid, or also called Tel Rumaday, or Tel Hebron, right? 5 LMLK, or to the king, La Malak means to the king. Jar handles bearing the city name Hebron have been discovered at the site, right? So why else would this pottery be specifically to the king in Hebron if the Hebron was never a capital, right? So this proves what the Bible said about Hebron being the first capital of King David. All right. Then it goes into what specifically they found. Excavations have uncovered sections of the Middle Bronze, Second Bronze Era city wall, which continue to be used in the First and Second Iron periods, as well as the remains of 4-room houses and fragments of collared rim jars, both of which are typically associated with the Israelites. The remains of David's royal residence likely lie on the summit of the Tel, which is covered by a medieval structure, which was originally a Byzantine monastery, right? So the Byzantines, that was Israelites ruling during the Middle Ages. The Byzantines came through and they found Hebron and they built a monastery on top of it, all right? And is off limits to excavation. While David is more commonly associated with Jerusalem, the first capital of the kingdom of Judah was at Hebron. Again, that's what we read last week. So that's one piece of evidence. Let's jump on down to, as you see right here, the large stone structure is King David's palace. They found it in Jerusalem. All right. It says that David was eventually made king over all Israel in 2 Samuel 5. Again, we read that last week. And he immediately captured Jerusalem and set to building a palace, which Hiram, king of Tyre, assisted in the construction of by providing cedar logs, carpenters, and stonemasons. From 2005 to 2007, Israeli archaeologist Dr. Eliot Mazar unearthed what is now known as the large stone structure, a monumental building with complex walls that were 6 to 8 feet wide. And back then, not many houses were like they are today as far as huge, right? That most houses, especially in a city, were very quaint. All right. So to see this large stone structure with all these different rooms, that means that this was a very important place, right? 6 to 8 feet wide, constructed of impressive stones, and to which a beautiful 5-foot long Aeolic capital likely once belonged. It is located above the famous Iron Age stepstone structure, which probably supported the fortress of Zion, and the large stone structure above. The pottery found beneath the large stone structure dated the first phase of its construction to the beginning of the Iron Age, or the Second Iron Age, I should say, 10th century BC, and that's around the time that King David lived, was around 1000 BC, all right? A little after in the 900s as well, the time of King David. Based on the palatial nature of the structure and the fact that its location matched biblical data, such as 2 Samuel 5:17, David descending from his residence to the fortress, Mazar identified the structure as David's palace, all right? And then they go on to say that, you know, there's some controversy behind that, because anytime you bring out some biblical archaeology, you're going to have naysayers and resistors to be like, no, it can't prove the Bible, because then we'd have to do what it says. So there's always that, and that's really the only thing, or the only things from David's life that that this article brings out is you know, his capital in Hebron, and then his palace in Jerusalem. All right. The rest of this is more about his descendants, and we haven't really got there yet, so we'll leave that for another time. So now let's get to the scriptures. Let's get to the scriptures. We're not going to read too much this week. We'll read through chapter 12, and we're starting right here in chapter 7. Starting with verse 1. And it came to pass, when the king sat in his house, and the Lord had given him rest round about from all his enemies, that the king said unto Nathan the prophet, See now, I dwell in a house of cedar, but the ark of God dwelleth within curtains. And Nathan said to the king, Go, do all that is in thy heart, for the Lord is with thee. Right? So David saw how well he was living, and then he's like, well, what about God's house? What about the Ark of the Covenant? It's in tents, right? And it came to pass that night that the word of the Lord came unto Nathan, saying, Go and tell my servant David, Thus saith the Lord, Shalt thou build me a house for me to dwell in? Whereas I have not dwelt in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt, even to this day, but have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. In all the places wherein I have walked with the children of Israel, spake I a word with any of the tribes of Israel, whom I commanded to feed my people Israel, saying, Why build ye not me an house of cedar? So God saying, look, I never asked to have a house in the first place. All right. Verse 8. Now therefore shalt thou say unto my servant David, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I took thee from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be a ruler over my people Israel. And I was with thee whithersoever thou wentest, and have cut off all thine enemies out of thy sight, and have made thee a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Right? And if we would have read further down into the archaeological evidence, those kings, whenever they took over the descendants of King David, they would write, oh, we captured the house of David. Right, because David had such a great reputation that if you killed one of his sons, then now that made you a great and a mighty man. Right, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Verse 10. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more as before time. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused thee to rest from all thine enemies, also the Lord telleth thee that he will make thee a house. And when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. All right? I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men, and with the stripes of the children of men. All right, so this is going into prophecy of Solomon, and then later on Christ. All right? But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. And thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David. Right? So Nathan had to go he received the word of the Lord, and he had to go tell David, look, you can't build me a house, but your son will build a house for me. All right. And it will be for the people of Israel so that they can have a place of worship. All right. So as you read on down, David goes into his prayer and prophecy of thanksgiving, of giving thanks to the Lord. But this is a history class, so we're not necessarily going to get into that. Read that on your own time. It is a beautiful prayer, but we're going to keep going. 2 Samuel chapter 8, starting with verse 1. And after this it came to pass that David smote the Philistines and subdued them. And David took Methegama out of the hand of the Philistines. And I don't know if Methegama is going to be on the map. It sounds like a smaller city. I haven't heard it very much. So let's see what we got here.
Mm-mm. Oh, you bet.
Yeah, it does that sometimes. No, it's not on the map. It's not on the map here. Verse 2. And he smote Moab and measured them with a line, casting them down to the ground. Even with 2 lines measured he to put to death, and with 1 full line to keep alive. So the Moabites became David's servants and brought gifts. Right. So he subdued them and give them a certain portion of land. Right. He said, you can't go no further than this boundary right here. David smote also Hadadezer, the son of Rehob, king of Zobah, as he went to recover his border at the river Euphrates. Right. So here we see, as it says right here, Israel's golden age on this map. And you see the Euphrates all the way over here. That's how far David went and conquered. And of course, Zobah would be like right in this area, like eastern Syria. All right. And David took from him 1,000 chariots and 700 horsemen and 20,000 footmen. And David hoed all the chariot horses, but reserved of them for 100 chariots. And when the Syrians of Damascus came to secure Hadadezer, king of Zobah, David slew of the Syrians 22,000 men. So you got to think, David is wiping out this Zobah, right? Just wiping them out, right? And then here come the allies of Zobah, and he starts wiping them out too. Because when the Lord is fighting for you, no one can be against you, right? It doesn't matter who comes against you. But to hoe the horses means to cut the inside of their legs so they're of no use. All right. Then, verse 6. Then David put garrisons in Syria of Damascus, and the Syrians became servants to David and brought gifts. And the Lord preserved David whithersoever he went. And David took the shields of gold that were on the servants of Hadadezer and brought them to Jerusalem. And from Betah and from Berothai, cities of Hadadezer, King David took exceeding much brass. When Toi, king of Hamath, heard that David had smitten all the host of Hadadezer, then Toi sent Joram, his son, unto King David to salute him and to bless him, because he had fought against Hadadezer and smitten him. For Hadadezer had wars with Toi, right? So, a situation where, the enemy of Hadadezer, now he's seen what David did to Hadadezer. He's like, oh, I should be friends with him. We have the same enemies. And Joram brought with him vessels of silver, vessels of gold, and vessels of brass, which also King David did dedicate unto the Lord, with the silver and gold that he had dedicated of all nations which he subdued. So that's one thing about David. When he took the spoils of war, he brought them for God and for his people. All right? Of Syria and of Moab and of the children of Ammon, and of the Philistines and of Amalek, and of the spoil of Hadadezer, son of Rehob, king of Zobah. Right? All the surrounding nations. All the surrounding nations. Verse 13. And David gat him a name when he returned from smiting of the Syrians in the valley of Salt, being 18,000 men. And he put garrisons in Edom. Throughout all Edom he put garrisons, and all they of Edom became David's servants. And the Lord preserved David whithersoever he went, right? All the people in the surrounding areas, right? All the Philistines being the Africans, right? To the west and to the south. You had Amalek, being so-called Jewish people. You had Edom, the rest of the white people, all right? Hadad-ezer and Syria, all up there. That's self-explanatory with Syria. Moab and Ammon, that's your Chinese and Japanese. He subdued all these people that was round about at the time. Verse 15. And David reigned over all Israel, and David executed judgment and justice unto all his people. And Joab the son of Zeruiah was over the host, right, captain of the host. And Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilud was recorder. And Zadok the son of Ahitub and Ahimelech son of Abiathar were the priests, and Sariah was the scribe. Right, so the Sariah being the scribe, meaning he writes down everything that the priests tell him to write, and Ahilud the recorder, basically being a stenographer. And Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was over both the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were chief rulers. Right, the Cherethites and the Pelethites being Philistine mercenaries. All right. All right, chapter 9. Let's start with verse 1. And David said, "Is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I may show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" Right, so David is still thinking about Saul, still thinking specifically about Jonathan, even after all these years. And there was of the house of Saul a servant whose name was Ziba. And when they called him unto David, the king said unto him, "Art thou Ziba?" And he said, "Thy servant is he." And the king said, "Is there not yet any of the house of Saul, that I may show kindness, that I may show the kindness of God unto him?" And Ziba said unto the king, "Jonathan hath yet a son, which is lame on his feet." And the king said unto him, "Where is he?" And Ziba said unto the king, "Behold, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Ammiel in Lodabar." Then King David sent and fetched him out of the house of Machir, the son of Ammiel from Lodabar. Now, when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was come unto David, he fell on his face and did reverence. So you got to think of Mephibosheth, right? You are crippled, right? You are disabled. And you have this new king who, well beloved by the people, of course, but he took the place of your father, right? Your father had the kingdom. Now you have this new king come up. You would expect this king to be trying to kill you because you're like an heir to the throne, right? But look what David does. As we've seen already, he wants to show the kindness of God to him. And David said, "Mephibosheth," and he answered, "Behold, thy servant." So now Mephibosheth is afraid for his life because he thinks David brought him here to kill him. And David said unto him, "Fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake, and will restore thee all the land of Saul thy father, and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually." And he bowed himself and said, "What is thy servant that thou shouldest look upon such a dead dog as I am?" Right? And he's thinking, like, I'm as good as dead at this point. Plus I'm disabled, right? He's got self-esteem issues on top of that. But this is the son of David's best friend, though. So that's how David's looking at it. Verse 9. Then the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said to him, "I have given unto thy master's son all that pertained to Saul and to all his house. Thou therefore and thy sons and thy servants shall till the land for him, and thou shalt bring in the fruits, that thy master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth thy master's son shall eat bread always at my table." Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then said Ziba unto the king, "According to all that my lord the king hath commanded his servant, so shall thy servant do. As for Mephibosheth," said the king, "he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons." Right? So he said, "I will welcome him as one of my own." And Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah. And all that dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants unto Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table and was lame on both his feet. Right, so Mephibosheth stayed there with David, but he owned all that Saul had at one point. Right, now the king had given him all that Saul had owned. Right, all that in Gibeah, all that in Benjamin. All right. Let's pick up with chapter 10. Start with verse 1. And it came to pass after this, that the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun his son reigned in his stead. Then said David, I will show kindness unto Hanun the son of Nahash, as his father showed kindness unto me. And David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants for his father. And David's servants came into the land of the children of Ammon. Right, Ammon would be Japanese today. And the princes of the children of Ammon said unto Hanun their lord, Thinkest thou that David doth honor thy father, that he hath sent comforters unto thee? Hath not David rather sent his servants unto thee to search the city, to spy it out, and to overthrow it? Right? He's receiving bad counsel. He's receiving idiotic, dumb counsel. And he's listening to it. Oh, Hanun. Right? A foolish young man. Wherefore Hanun took David's servants and shaved off one half of their beards and cut off their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away. See, these days, people be sagging and stuff and willingly showing their ass. But it was a shame back in the day, right? And he shaved off half their beards because there's a law that says don't cut off the corner of your beards, right? So they did that intentionally. Verse 5. When they told it unto David, he sent to meet them because the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, Tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return. He's like, look, I don't even want to see you like that. Let them beards grow back, then we'll talk. And when the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David, the children of Ammon sent and hired the Syrians of Beth Rehob and the Syrians of Zobah, 20,000 footmen. And of King Maacah 1,000 men, and of Ishtob 12,000 men. Right, so they're hiring all these mercenaries and stuff. I don't know why they go to the Syrians, because the Syrians already been whooped by David. But maybe they're thinking, oh, they've been seething, right? They want the revenge, whatever, right? But this whole, how much is it? 20,000 and 1,000 and 12,000, right? So that's 33,000. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the host of the mighty men. And the children of Ammon came out and put the battle in array at the entering in of the gate. And the Syrians of Zobah and of Rehob and of Ishtob and Maacah were by themselves in the field. Right, so it's about to go down. Verse 9. When Joab saw that the front of the battle was against him before and behind, he chose of all the choice men of Israel and put them in array against the Syrians. And the rest of the people he delivered into the hand of Abishai his brother, that he might put them in array against the children of Ammon. He was like, so this is battle strategy right here. He was like, all right, split up. This group over here take the Syrians. This group over here take the Ammonites. And he said, if the Syrians be too strong for me, then thou shalt help me. But if the children of Ammon be too strong for thee, then I will come and help thee. Verse 12, be of good courage, and let us play the men for our people, and for the cities of our God. And the Lord do that which seemeth good. Right? So again, when he said play right here, he ain't talking about, playing catch. Right? He ain't talking about throwing a ball. He's talking about going to war. Verse 13. And Joab drew nigh, and the people that were with him unto the battle against the Syrians, and they fled before him. And when the children of Ammon saw that the Syrians were fled, then fled they also before Abishai, and entered into the city. So Joab returned from the children of Ammon and came to Jerusalem. Right? So, oh man, they running scared, even though they clearly had the man advantage. Right? It doesn't say specifically, but like you read how many, or you heard how many men that they had. They had the man advantage, but the way that the Lord was with the Israelites at that time, putting thousands to flight, just like what the blessings say in Deuteronomy 28 and in Leviticus 26. All right. Verse 15. And when the Syrians saw that they were smitten before Israel, they gathered themselves together, and Hadarezer sent and brought out the Syrians that were beyond the river. And they came to Helam, and Shobach, the captain of the host of Hadarezer, went before them. And when it was told David, he gathered all Israel together and passed over Jordan and came to Helam. And the Syrians set themselves in array against David and fought with him. And the Syrians fled before Israel. And David slew the men of 700 chariots of the Syrians and 40,000 horsemen, and smote Shobach, the captain of their host, who died there. Right? So bad mistake for these Syrians to think they could come against Israel like that when we are in our righteousness. And you see later on in the history, when you start getting into the kings, that they end up getting their revenge in some respects. It was war all the time, especially between Northern Kingdom and Syria. All right. Verse 19. And when all the kings that were servants to Hadarezer saw that they were smitten before Israel, they made peace with Israel and served them. So the Syrians feared to help the children of Ammon anymore. They said, look, we ain't getting into y'all messes anymore. Y'all fight y'all own battles. We will happily serve the Israelites as long as they stop whooping our tail. All right. Beautiful, beautiful right there. So we shifting gears now. And there's a reason why I wanted to read through 11 and 12, because this is the biggest blot on David's name is right here. All right. 2 Samuel 11, starting with verse 1. And it came to pass, after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem, right? David got to the point where he don't have to fight no more. He's the king. He's a made man. Everybody knows that if David comes to the battle, it's OV, right? So he don't even go to most of the battles no more. Verse 2. And it came to pass in an evening tide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. And the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And David sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And David sent messengers and took her. And she came in unto him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness. And she returned unto her house. And the woman conceived and sent and told David and said, I am with child. So you have David not only committing adultery, but getting this married woman pregnant while her husband is at war. All right. Verse 6. And David sent to Joab, saying, send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. And when Uriah was coming to him, David demanded of him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered, right? So David making it seem like, oh, I just called you to give me a progress report. How's the war going? Verse 8. And David said to Uriah, go down to thy house and wash thy feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king, right? Giving him all sorts of gifts. Go home. Have a good time. Here you go. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house. And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down to his house, David said unto Uriah, camest thou not from thy journey? Why then didst thou not go down unto thy house? And Uriah said unto David, the ark and Israel and Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into my house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As thou livest and as thy soul liveth, I will not do this thing. Right? So any other man in that position just got home from war to give the progress report, got all these gifts from the king. He would go home to his wife, right? Make love to her, sleep in his own bed. You know what I mean? But Uriah was in a righteous spirit here. He said, look, how can I be comfortable in my own house when all my, whether it be my master Joab, or whether it be, any of the other captains or officers, all of my men, all of my friends, all of my brothers are out at the war. So how can I be comfortable, right? And obviously this thing was of the Lord. That Uriah would not go home to his wife. All right. Verse 12. And David said to Uriah, tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let thee depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the morrow. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his Lord, but went not down to his house, right? So David is trying his best. He even got him drunk. He still can't get him to go home. Verse 14. And it came to pass in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. So listen to this wickedness. Listen what he wrote in this letter. And he sent it by the hand of Uriah. So keep that in mind. And he wrote in the letter saying, set ye Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire ye from him, that he may be smitten and die. So imagine, you think you're just doing the service of your king, right? You think you're just doing your job, and turns out you're handing your death certificate over to your captain, right? Your boss. Crazy. Foolishness. Verse 16. And it came to pass when Joab observed the city that he assigned Uriah unto a place where he knew that valiant men were. And the men of the city went out and fought with Joab. And there fell some of the people of the servants of David. And Uriah the Hittite died also. Right? So David specifically give the battle plan. Hey, look, y'all put Uriah out there and then retreat from him so that he gets killed. Evil. All right. Verse 18. Then Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war, and charged the messenger, saying, when thou hast made an end of telling the matters of the war unto the king, if so be that the king's wrath arise, and he say unto thee, wherefore approach ye so nigh unto the city when ye did fight? Knew ye not that they would shoot from the wall? Who smote Abimelech the son of Jerubasheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of millstone upon him from the wall, and that he died in Thebes? Why went ye nigh the wall? Then say thou, thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. Right, so Joab is specifically moving in a manner here, or telling his messengers, I should say, to move in a manner here where, before you respond, see how David responds to the news. All right. Verse 22. So the messenger went and came and showed David all that Joab had sent him for. And the messenger said unto David, surely the men prevailed against us, and came out unto us in the field, and we were upon them even unto the entering of the gate. And the shooters shot from the wall upon thy servants, and some of the king's servants be dead, and thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. Then David said unto the messenger, thus shalt thou say unto Joab, let not this thing displease thee, for the sword devoureth one as well as another. Make thy battle more strong against the city, and overthrow it, and encourage thou him. Right? So David didn't even really respond to any of his other servants being dead. If David was in the spirit here, he would have been like, well, why did you do this? Why did you specifically make yourself weak? But remember, David had asked him to do that. So David, in his little, wicked mischief that he's conjured up, he thinks, oh, this is going to slide under the rug, right? He thinks, oh, I just got away with it. All right. Verse 26. And when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah, her husband, was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when the morning was past, David sent and fetched her to his house, and she became his wife, and bare him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. Yeah, obviously, because this is wicked and evil, right? It's some real medieval type stuff, right? This is exactly the type of stuff that you read about those kings doing, where they, if you had a beautiful wife and you were a peasant, the king would come kill you and just take your wife. That's exactly the type of that type of stuff right here. Except David did all cunning so he could still appear righteous. This chapter 12, starting with verse 1. And the Lord sent Nathan unto David, and he came unto him and said unto him, there were two men in one city, the one rich, the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds. Verse 3. But the poor man had nothing, save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up, and it grew up together with him, and with his children. It did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. Verse 4. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was come to him. Right? So Nathan is using a parable, using an allegory, using a metaphor to describe to David the situation. And watch David's response. Verse 5. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, as the Lord liveth, the man that had done this thing shall surely die. Right? So that's David's judgment over this lamb that was stolen. Right? Much less a person. All right? Much less a wife. Verse 6. And he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. So he said, he shall surely die, and also take of his stuff fourfold. Verse 7. And Nathan said to David, thou art the man. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if it had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Right? So the Lord's sitting there, look, David, I give you all this. I give you everything. And if you would have asked more, I would have given you more. Verse 9, wherefore thou hast despised the commandment of the Lord to do evil in his sight. He said, why did you do this? You know that was wicked. You ain't never done nothing like this before, David. Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thy own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of this sun. Right? So in front of everybody. So that the sun can say, in broad daylight. For thou didst sit secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. Right? So notice that David said, this man shall surely die, right? And in any other situation, God would kill the adulterer. God would kill the murderer, right? Much less somebody who committed adultery and murder. But he spared David's life. He didn't let him get off scot-free. He said, I'm gonna judge you for what you've done, but in a sense, that's still mercy. You know, don't think you can do the same type of thing right here and get away with it. You know, the Lord loved David. All right. But anyway, verse 13. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, the Lord also hath put away thy sin. Thou shalt not die. Verse 14. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also that is born to thee shall surely die. Right? So that child that Bathsheba got pregnant with, he's going to die. Verse 15. And Nathan departed unto his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. Right? So David is praying for his child to survive. Right? And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with him. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that the servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, is the child dead? And they said, he is dead. Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of the Lord and worshiped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. All right, verse 21. Then said his servants unto him, what thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread. And he said, while the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who can tell whether God will be gracious to me that the child may live? But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. Right? So David said, well, yeah, I was praying for him while he was alive. Maybe God was sparing, but now he's dead. I mean, he's not coming back. Ain't nothing I can do about it now, right? Verse 24. And David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her. And she bare a son, and called his name Solomon, and the Lord loved him. Right? So this ended up being Solomon's mother. All right? And he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he called his name Jedediah, because of the Lord. Right? Jedediah, I believe that does mean because of the Lord. Let me see. Beloved of God. That's what that means. Beloved of God. Verse 26. And Joab fought against Rabbah of the children of Ammon and took the royal city. All right. We ain't been using the map too much, But here's just an example of Ammon. Ammon was right here on the other side of Gad and Reuben, as you can see right there. Verse 27. And Joab sent messengers to David and said, I have fought against Rabbah and have taken the city of waters. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together and encamp against the city and take it, lest I take the city and it be called after my name. And David gathered all the people together and went to Rabbah and fought against it and took it. Right, so they would, as you can see right here, Joab called David in for the big moment, for the parade, right, so that he could get the glory as the king, right? Verse 30. And he took their king's crown from off his head. The weight thereof was a talent of gold with precious stones, and it was set on David's head. And he brought forth the spoil of the city in great abundance. And he brought forth the people that were therein, and put them under saws, and under harrows of iron, and under axes of iron, and made them pass through the brick kiln, right? He put them to work. And thus did he unto all the cities of the children of Ammon. So David and all the people returned unto Jerusalem, right? So I just wanted to get to, or get through rather, the incident of Uriah the Hittite this week, because next week we will see how all this prophecy that Nathan told him, that the Lord delivered unto David, about how his family was just going to be in turmoil and strife and contention all the rest of his life. And we start to see that next week in chapter 13. So